am I walking into? And Sakura. The bad language and bad behavior are people emulating the behavior of Donald J. Trump. M3 is there. Well, you guys are having a whole conversation of your own, aren't you? Hello, hello, hello. Happy Memorial Day weekend. I'm going to make a pitch today for flying the flag. Flying that flag. Corinne Kenny, Tammy Moran, Antique X-Ray. Hello, hello, hello. David Ojeda, Eduardo. Hi, Thomas. How are you? Appreciate you being here. We're a minute out. Cynthia Christie is there. Bob O'Shaughnessy. Good day to you. Jester Development. That sounds like a commercial. Desiree Sunset 81. My old neighbor, Chuck Hall. Hello, Chuck. Hope you're well. Hey, Chuck, I never told you. I did read your book, and I appreciated it. And I didn't really understand all the things that you're doing today. So I wish you good things, and it sounds like you're doing good work. Hi, Joan Todd. Valerie Fitzgerald is there. Hamilton White is there. Sean Nichols. Hey, what do you guys, real quick before I get started on radio, how do you like the idea of Bonnie yesterday putting together these sort of organic mingle opportunities all across the country? You know, small groups of listeners who get together on their own and meet other listeners. I think it's really cool. So check that out. And the meetup. Karen Stocker says she likes it. All right. Gonna rock and roll now. So turning this way, wishing all good things for you. Let's do this. Memorial Day weekend and plenty of action, excitement, and entertainment at Parks Casino, the #1 casino in Pennsylvania. This is how you win. Happy hour at the Liberty Bell Garden with seating inside and out. Perfect to get outside in this great weather. Live entertainment tonight at the 360 Lounge. Dine at one of the award-winning restaurants, the Parks Grill Steakhouse, the Liberty Bell Gastropub. Delicious sushi hand rolls at the Bamboo Noodle House. 3,200 state-of-the-art slot machines. 115 live table games. It is my casino of choice. It really is. If you've got nothing to do for Memorial Day weekend, you're like, hey, everybody's got plans. What am I going to do? Go see some entertainment in the Excite Center or some of the other venues that are all under the roof at Parks Casino. JB Smooth is coming. The acapella sounds of Straight No Chaser is coming in October. A lot of good stuff is coming. That's the bottom line. Go to the website and see. Parks is spelled P-A-R-X. Parks Casino, this is how you win. Check them out this weekend. Headlines now from the TGIF Friday edition of the Smerconish.com newsletter. Yesterday, 25,094 votes cast on this. This was the Patty Davis, as in daughter of Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan, inspired question. She was a guest on the program, wrote a piece that caught my eye for the New York Times. At the first debate, should President Biden ignore or confront President Trump's insults and interruptions? Should he confront him or should he ignore him? 54.77% say he ought to confront him. I think that's wishful thinking because people, they just want to see Donald Trump kneecapped. So that's what you want to see. I'm not so sure that's what he will do, but I know one thing, and that is there's going to be a tremendous amount of time spent behind closed doors over the next month as President Biden prepares for his debate with President Trump. Whether Trump will invest the time necessary, I'm not so sure. Interestingly, yesterday, Quinnipiac released a brand new survey that showed RFK Jr. at 14%. I completely ruled out. In fact, when he was my guest last Saturday on CNN, I thought to myself, there's no chance that Bobby is going to make it to the debate stage because they put this deal together very quickly, I think in large measure, not wanting him on the debate stage. Biden doesn't want him there. Trump doesn't want him there. He's a wild card. They really don't know from whom does he pull more. I think it's state dependent. Initially, the conventional wisdom was that Kennedy in the race is going to boost Trump because he's going to pull from Biden, and that's why you've got all of those Kennedy family members who have done events with President Biden. And then some surveys came out that said, wait a minute, actually a 2-point deficit for Joe Biden becomes a 2-point victory for Joe Biden in national surveys if RFK is in the mix. And that's when Trump went full frontal. His super PAC, not affiliated with his campaign, but supporting his campaign, went online with a website, Radical Effing Kennedy. Get it? RFK, Radical Effing Kennedy. So they're both at odds. When I had Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on CNN last Saturday, in my mind I thought, well, there's no shot now that 1 month from now he can be on a debate stage in the CNN debate, which is June 27. All of a sudden, I'm not ruling anything out, and I'll tell you why. Quinnipiac came out with a survey yesterday that showed that he's at 14%. I think that it is conceivable that he could be on a sufficient number of polls to make a case that he's at 15%. But can he get on enough state ballots within the next 30 days so that he could theoretically reach 270? That seems highly unlikely. I'm going to tell you something else. Watch out for this now that I have mentioned it. Given that RFK Jr. is somewhere in the 14% to 15% range in these national polls and in battleground state surveys that I have seen, watch how media outlets, now I'm going to sound like my dad. You know, I pulled that cynic gene from my father. I've told you that before, right? So perhaps this is what my father would say, which doesn't make it wrong, by the way. Watch how the media that heretofore have ignored Bobby now focus on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his running mate with opposition research-fueled analysis. I'm thinking of that New York Times story about Nicole Shanahan, and I then saw the Nicole Shanahan story, a version of it, on CNN. What's your point, Michael? My point is that media outlets that don't typically give the time of day to Kennedy and Shanahan are giving them attention when it's in an unflattering light. Perhaps, my old man would have said, to make sure that he doesn't make it to the debate stage. Because here's the interesting issue. The Commission on Presidential Debates had the standard of 15% and 270, which has been adopted, as the standard, I think, by both CNN and ABC. And the idea probably was that he could never get there. He could certainly never get there by June 27. Well, what if he does get there? Because Biden and Trump, this is my real point, Biden and Trump made this agreement believing that if they debated in June, Kennedy can't meet the threshold, they then have a debate, they leave him in the dust, and he never gets to 15%. If RFK Jr. were to get to 15% in 5 national polls and be on enough state ballots to get to 270, would Biden and Trump still debate? That's the question. And we'll probably never answer it because I don't think that Bobby's going to get to 270 in time. I watched that Trump rally yesterday from the Bronx. I have a lot of thoughts. Not the least of which, well, interestingly, because the cable outlets were in different measure covering it, Fox News pretty much went wall to wall with it. And it spanned nearly 2 hours. I think Trump was on that stage in the Bronx for about 90 minutes. But my chief observation about this Trump rally and all the Trump rallies is, why are the production values so poor? And I don't mean from Trump's staging and advance standpoint. I mean that there's always just like one camera shot. The image is often blurred and they lose the feed. I mean, it's like Wayne's World watching these things. Not his fault. I don't know to what to attribute it. And then it's the same old situation where there's a tight camera shot on Donald Trump and the stage, and it's him saying, wow, look at this crowd. Turn those cameras around. And I'm sitting there at home and I'm saying, I'd like to see that crowd. How large of a crowd did he draw in the Bronx? Same thing I wondered about Atlantic City a couple of weekends ago. You know, he was saying 100,000 people. Some media outlets were saying 40,000 people. That's still a hell of a lot of people. But why can't a media outlet with Secret Service approval send a drone into the sky? I can't be the only one. I tweeted yesterday during the course of the Trump Bronx rally, why does TV production always suffer at these live at real Donald Trump rallies? Just one camera, signal interrupted, and never a full view of the entire crowd. Please show me an aerial view. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., one last thought on he and Trump in this regard. As I've already mentioned, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. today appearing at the Libertarian Convention in Washington, D.C. This is their 2024 Libertarian Convention. Donald Trump will be there tomorrow. Now that's really interesting. I take note of the fact that on the Libertarian website today, I saw congratulations to the names of candidates who participated in the straw poll. I have to believe that both Kennedy and Trump are coming to ask for the endorsement. Wouldn't it be interesting if the Libertarians decided that they would endorse one or the other of them? More headlines now from the Friday edition of the Smerconish.com daily newsletter. I haven't said this in a while. Thank you so much if you're a subscriber to the newsletter. I kind of take for granted that if you listen to the program on a regular basis and if you're interested, then you're already a subscriber. I really appreciate you. Alice Herrick, who is our managing editor, and this week had a really thoughtful essay of her own in the newsletter about her thoughts as a young woman on motherhood and why it's not for her, at least not at this stage of her life. But she does a great job. The content is terrific. The editorial cartoonists are great. And you know it's my soft spot when people call the program and they say, hey, I love the newsletter. I'm like already melting. That open rate of 76% is just off the charts. So people don't just sign up for my newsletter, which is free. They really open it and use it as an introductory aspect of their morning. 8 a.m. Philly time is usually the dispatch. Poll question today at Smerconish.com. I thought this was so appropriate given the Alito flag flying. Oh, it just occurred to me. Do you think the Alitos will be on LBI this weekend for Memorial Day? And if they're on LBI, will they be flying a flag? I thought that this was an appropriate poll question given the combination of the Alitos and also it being Memorial Day, and also because we're in the midst of a very contentious presidential race. And so for all those reasons, I'm asking the following. When you see an American flag flying, do you make assumptions about the political affiliation of the owner? You see that, if you see that flag on a pickup truck, I get it, okay? It's got a Brandon reference and it's on a pickup. You know who they're voting for. But if you're in your neighborhood, anywhere, any town, USA, and you're driving down the street, you get to the cul-de-sac, and somebody's flying a flag, are you saying to yourself, they are a Republican, or they are a MAGA Republican? I've been thinking about this, and I went looking for the polling data, and the reality is, I saw a really good analysis from YouGov. 83% of Republicans told YouGov that they've got a very positive view of the flag, 61% of independents, 49% of Democrats. What does that mean exactly? A very positive view of the flag. If you're Republican, if you are older, if you are white, the likelihood is greater that you are flying the American flag greater than those who are not older and white and Republican. But what does it actually mean? Do you have a positive or negative view of the American flag? I guess it's synonymous with saying, do you have a positive or negative view of the country? 78%, how about this? 78% of those 65 and older say that they have a very positive view of the flag. Under 30, it's only 41%. It's only 41%. So go vote at Smerconish.com. Tell me if you make judgments, perception, assessments about somebody's politics when you see their flag. That's what I'm getting at with today's poll question. There's a lot of financial news in the newsletter today. Our lead story, a lot of choices, a lot of news, a lot of heavy news, but I went with this. The NCAA is now going to pay athletes. It's amazing how far we've come on the issue of whether and how to compensate athletes. I don't have this all figured out yet, but I do want to float a notion for you. From the Associated Press, the nearly $2.8 billion settlement that has been approved by the NCAA and the nation's 5 largest conferences is a historic step toward a more professional model for college sports. It also calls for setting up a first-of-its-kind revenue-sharing system for college athletes, which will impact hundreds of schools across the country as early as 2025. Those most directly impacted seem to be the Big Ten, Big 12, ACC, SEC. They'll be making the largest investment going forward because the settlement includes a proposed revenue-sharing system that will allow students to commit up to $21 million per year to be paid directly to athletes. The overall commitment, including damages, is expected to be at about $300 million per school. There's 69 of them in all, over 10 years. How that's going to work? A major question. It's going to take time for the schools and the conferences to work out. NCAA rules will likely need to be rewritten. One change that could have the most noticeable impact on the field is a switch from the NCAA's traditional scholarship limits to using roster size to determine how many athletes a school can have in a particular sport. I haven't read anything about this, and I might be mistaken, but I'm thinking this is going to have significant Title IX implications for female athletes. You know there's a huge disparity in the money that's out there for the male and female athletes, and it's reflective, frankly, of attendance, although Caitlin Clark is in the process of changing that, or was in the process of changing that, or maybe did change that. But here is something that I need to think through and research. If the NCAA is saying, okay, we cry uncle, we will pay these athletes, or the schools will pay the athletes, or the alumni are going to pay the athletes, however the hell they're going to do it. And I guess the name, image, and likeness, the whole nil concept is probably going to go away. But if you're throwing all this money into the pot for athletics, Title IX, I think, is going to require that it get whacked evenly with women. I'm not sure. And it could be a bonanza for unheralded female athletes for whom attendance doesn't justify the revenue, attendance at their events, television rights, and so forth. But now that money might have to get paid. I'll circle back on that next week when I know more about it. The Dow fell yesterday 600 points, worst day of 2024. I had a misprint in the headline of the newsletter, and I caught it late last night. I had written, Dow has worst day since 2024. I'm like, holy crap! It's a good thing we didn't hit send on that. No, worst day in 2024, because this is 2024. Post earnings rally by NVIDIA failed to lift the broader market, which reminds me that yesterday in the newsletter we had the Axios Harris poll, the top reputation for well-known businesses. NVIDIA, which is carved out such a niche for itself in artificial intelligence, was number one. I was surprised that there was even awareness of NVIDIA that would allow them to be at the top of that ranking. Who was in second position? 3M, Fidelity Investments, Sony, Adidas, USAA, and Honda Motor Company. I told a story on air about one of our sons working for a big box store. I'm just going to tell you now because it's relevant to today. It was a couple of summers ago. It was Home Depot. And I said that he'd been trained not to confront shoplifters, but rather just to report them. And it made me realize just what what do they call it? A shrinkage, I think, but not in the Seinfeld sense. Just what an enormous loss is being faced by these big retailers That's what it told me when I heard the story from my son. There's more to it, but I wanted to reference that as a means of saying there's a CNN story at Smerconish.com that you don't want to miss today about how now the retailers are using police-like investigation centers to fight back. Remarkable story. Check that one out. A billionaire handed graduates $1,000 each. This was at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. His name, Robert Hale Jr. He was the commencement speaker. He said, $1,000 each. Do what you want with half of it and give the rest away. It's a great story. We have that at Smerconish.com. And what I really recommend everybody not only read on the website, but watch on my Facebook page, because I want you to actually see the video, is the story about the North Texas high school valedictorian who delivered a moving speech right after burying his father. Oh my God, it's an unbelievable story. Dateline, Carrollton, Texas, when early college high school valedictorian Alem Hadzik watched on stage to deliver his graduation speech on Thursday, almost no one in the audience knew what he was going through. I didn't know if I could give my speech, he told a local media outlet. I knew I had to. I didn't know if I could. In January, his father was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He never shared his dad's private battle with his classmates, not until he delivered his valedictorian speech. Quote, "My father died yesterday," he told the crowd in his speech. Audience members were heard gasping. And today, I attended his funeral right before graduation. It's true, 45 minutes before graduation, he buried his dad. Quote, "That's why my shoes are muddy. That's why my arms are shaking. Because I had to carry him into his grave and bury him. I had to do it for him, but I also had to go to my graduation for him." His dad was an immigrant. He came from Bosnia. And at one point, he delivered Domino's pizzas, all to build a better life for his kids so that they could succeed. "I can't pretend to want to stand up here right now," Alem said in his speech. "But I can't throw away something he worked so hard for me to achieve. And that's why I'm going to go to college, and I'm going to spend every hour of every day working to achieve my goals, because that's what he wanted. And I'm going to go do it for him." Oh my God. Does that not cut you to the quick? Holy smokes. Okay, on that note, have a wonderful, safe Memorial Day weekend. Remember the purpose and fly the flag. Okay, gang. How was that? What do you think? How about that story at the end? Was that unbelievable? Jay, the strength of the immigrant and their kids. Jay, that's true, isn't it? M3, he and his father are America made great. Yeah, love it. Love it. Incredible son, all the power to him in the future. I agree with you too. Yeah, we love that. Hang on, Dan, I'm talking to my audience here. Heartening, says David. Pretty good. Great story. Well done. Thank you, Jester. I'm glad you like that story. Okay, see y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow, okay? 7:30 tomorrow. I get it if you can't be there. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you on radio soon.